Hello, my friends. How are you? And welcome to 30 albums for 30 years, 1964 through 1994. Man, I am super pumped about today's album. It is the Mothers of Invention Freak Out, led by the great Frank Zappa. The record was released on June 27th of 1966 and recorded between March 9th and 12th of 1966. Released on the Verve record label. Let's get into it. Okay, so how does one even begin to describe Frank Zappa? I mean, he was a guitarist, he was a singer, a composer, an innovator, a genius, a mad musical scientist, a satirist, a nonconformer, and an icon. Frank Zappa was an individual like no other, and most likely he will never be replicated. His music, incredibly eclectic, and often unbelievably difficult to play. At any given moment, Frank Zappa could shift into a multitude of genres, including rock, blues, jazz, modern classical music, avant-garde music, doo-wop, folk, funk, soul, R&B, even country. Lyrically, he was deeply original and frequently incorporated his unique blend of humor and what I'll call Zappa-isms into his lyrics. Never boring and never formulaic, Frank Zappa was an absolute gift to the musical world, and an argument can be made that he was quite possibly the most gifted composer and musical artist of the latter half of the 20th century. Frank Zappa was born on December 21st, 1940 in Baltimore, but the family moved frequently due to his father's work as a chemist and mathematician for the defense industry. In fact, he went to 6 different high schools. And through his father's work, he was often exposed to harmful chemicals and mercury-made lab equipment. In fact, he played with the stuff as a child, and this may have led to several childhood illnesses and possibly his later struggles with cancer, although to be fair, he smoked like a chimney. Frank Zappa often references chemicals, the military complex, and germs as themes in his lyrics. Frank Zappa developed a deep interest in music early on and showed great skill despite his lack of early formal training. He began playing drums and guitar in high school, and then discovered the exploratory music of composers like Igor Stravinsky and Edgar Varese, along with other avant-garde composers. And soon after that, he began experimenting with avant-garde composition, and one of his earliest musical collaborators was Don Van Vliet, later known as Captain Beefheart. So Frank Zappa was playing music in high school, and then he graduated and briefly attended Chaffey College, but left after only 1 semester to pursue a career in music while also working odd jobs. He also married Catherine Kay Sherman in 1960. So while working in clubs with various bands, including the Blackouts, Frank Zappa also began to gain some momentum writing and selling his music to low-budget films. Movies like The World's Greatest Sinner from 1962 and Run Home Slow from 1965. One notable commission came when he wrote the song Memories of Almonte, recorded by the doo-wop group The Penguins. Soon Frank Zappa was working regularly in Cucamonga, California, at a recording studio and experimenting with multi-track recording. Always willing to shock and surprise, Zappa made an appearance on Steve Allen's popular late-night show, playing a bicycle as a musical instrument. In 1964, Frank Zappa's marriage began to break down, and he moved into PAL Studios and devoted his time to recording and experimenting. He eventually took over the studio, renaming it Studio Z, and worked on his music and the music of his select group of associates. In 1965, Frank Zappa was arrested on pornography-related charges because he made some audio recordings of suggestive material, and he received a 6-month sentence, of which he spent 10 days in jail. The incident had a profound impact on his life and created a deep disdain for the government and censorship. These themes often filtered into his music and commentary. The incident led to Zappa having to give up his recording studio as he could no longer afford the rent. And after his release, he became the guitarist for the Soul Giants, which included his good friend and musical collaborator Ray Collins. Eventually, Zappa became the band's lead singer and band leader. With some persuasion, he changed the band's name to the Mothers and began presenting his original material. The Mothers soon began to be recognized in the Los Angeles underground music scene, and the band began to capture the attention of some industry titans, at which point they revised their name to the Mothers of Invention. So Freak Out is the debut studio album from the Mothers of Invention. In fact, it's a double album, so it's pretty lengthy. The record showcases Frank Zappa's unique blend of satirical lyrics, along with doo-wop music and blues, rock and roll, avant-garde influences, and experimental sound collages. The album maintains characters and concepts and commentary that keep recurring, and therefore many consider Freak Out one of the earliest concept albums in popular music. The record includes a whole host of studio musicians along with the Mothers of Invention. The Mothers of Invention include, of course, Frank Zappa on guitar and vocals, Jimmy Carl Black on percussion drums and vocals, Ray Collins on vocals, harmonica, cymbals, sound effects, tambourines, finger cymbals, bobby pin, and tweezers. Roy Estrada plays the bass, and Guitarran sings as well. And then there's Elliot Ingber, alternate lead and rhythm guitar player. So there's a lot of music to get to. Let's check it out.